Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It is finally August. College football season is here. It's upon us. Today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through and we're going to be building a ideal college football tour for the 2026 season. I got this idea from the GOAT himself, the Josh Pate show. He went through, he planned out an ideal trip throughout the course of the year. What games would he go to each and every week? So we've done the same thing. A couple of rule modifications here. I'm going to go through and explain to you what my rules are. Then we'll go through and we'll look at the week by week breakdown. Here we go. Rule number one game per week. Okay, we can only go to one game each week. So we have to be careful and selective with the game because number two, our second rule is that we can only see a team twice on this tour, okay? And we cannot see a team at home twice. So if we see his team twice, either it has to be because we watched them on the road twice, or it has to be because one of the games is at home and one of the games is on the road. The goal of this tour is that we're getting a picture of the college football season as a whole. So each week, we're getting to see, hopefully, a new team. Or if it's a team we've already seen, we're getting to see them against a new team in a new atmosphere. And my hope for this is that as we go through and look at these teams, this would be an ideal tour that by the end of the year, we'd feel like I got to be a part of the college football season. I got to see so many of the great games, so many of the great storylines. And so we're going to hop into it. My one precursor for this is that I love college football. But I think that so much of college football, basically all of college football, is discovered in the regular season. So I'm not claiming, okay, that these games are going to be the peak, the best games of each week, because the reality is that you can have a team ranked super high because you think they had a great transfer portal window, but until they actually play a game, you don't even know. So what I am selecting is I'm selecting games that I believe carry a great storyline. I'm trying to see as many different conferences as I can. And I'm trying to obviously go to some of these huge games throughout the course of the year. We're going to 14 games total because we're going to kick it off with week zero. Because if this is a full college football tour, we got to be going somewhere week zero. And week zero, if I could go to any single game week zero, I'd be at TCU versus North Carolina. One of the kickoff games of the whole entire college football season. And the answer for this is very simple. What is Bill Belichick going to do this year? Are we going to see a North Carolina team that takes any steps forward? Or are we going to see a North Carolina team that just gets stuck exactly where they've been for the past couple of years? Now, the thing about North Carolina and TCU is that TCU's not the greatest team in the country, obviously, but I think we're going to be able to get a gauge of kind of where North Carolina's at based off of how they handle TCU. Do they take care of business with TCU? Is it a close game? Do they lose to TCU? I think there's a lot riding on week one. Obviously, in the offseason this year, there's been so much talk about Bill Belichick. How does he start the season with all that noise going on behind him? And it's just one of the kickoff games of week zero. And I think that, that alone by yourself, there's not very many games week zero that are getting a draw. So we're going to go to TCU versus North Carolina. Then week one, kind of maybe a interesting choice. In week one, a lot of the teams are still playing their FBS schedule, or they're still playing their. Most teams are playing non-conference schedule games, and they're playing a lot lower ranked opponents. And so, I was looking for a good game week one, and I settled on Florida State versus SMU. What is the ACC gonna be like this year? Right, Florida State coming off a disappointing season last year. How do they respond? How do they answer? SMU coming off of a couple seasons where they've been really productive. They've had a lot of great teams. They've been super, super competitive in the ACC. Now we get to see Florida State play them week one. We get to experience a new conference, right? A conference battle. We're seeing North Carolina, but we get to see a full conference battle between two ACC teams. And I think that these are two teams that if someone told you at the end of the year, one of these teams is going to win the ACC, you might be a little surprised if it's Florida State, but you're not going to be shocked. But SMU's been competitive enough to where this could be a really great game. This could be a huge win for Florida State, or this could be one of those games where we start to say, okay, like, how is this season going to play out and fold out for Florida State? So I'll be going to Florida State SMU week 1. Then week 2, which is our third game because we got a week 0 game. But week 2, we're going to go to Texas versus Ohio State. I mean, I feel like there's no other game you can go to. Texas versus Ohio State, week 2, the storylines write themselves. I mean, Arch Manning in what last year was a huge stumbling block for him. They opened the season at Ohio State. He really, really struggled in that game. This year, he gets to go out week 2, gets to play him at home. How's he going to respond to everything that happened last season? He was putting stuff together at the end of the season last year. And so how is he going to respond and kick things off this year? On the flip side, Ohio State got some tough games on the schedule, this being one of them. And if you drop this game, you look further down the road, you've got some other tough games. Spoiler alert, we've got one more of them on here, but you got some more tough games. And so how are you going to respond if you lose a game week 2? Going to be a huge, huge tone-setting game for two teams that have not just playoff, but national championship hopes. So you absolutely have got to be there week 2, I think. Next, week 3, we're going to be going to LSU versus Ole Miss. This game, when I was planning this, and I said I can only go to one home game of each team. I can only see a team twice. I was trying to plan it out. I was trying to make sure I got to the games I wanted to go to for each and every team. And this game was the biggest no-brainer of the entire year for me. There is nowhere else, week 3, I would rather be than LSU Ole Miss. There is nowhere else I would rather be than Ole Miss when Lane Kiffin walks back into that stadium. There is no other game that week that even drew attention from me. Not because there's not good games, but because this game is, I think it's possibly my most anticipated game of the entire year, to see what LSU at Ole Miss is going to be like. You know it's going to be a toxic environment for Lane Kiffin. You know all of the talk the whole entire week before is going to be unbelievable. And then you're going to get an opportunity to go in there and to see what happens. And if Ole Miss wins that game, then the rest of Ole Miss season, I think there is it's such a wind in the sails moment for them. And on the flip side, LSU is actually technically in a game like this, the underdog, right? They're coming in. We're looking at coaches' polls right now. They're going to be the underdog probably going into this game in week 3. And so what does LSU do? What does Lane Kiffin do? Does he get to give an answer that says, hey, listen, great run in the playoffs last year, Ole Miss, but don't forget who built you. Don't forget who made you. And so I just can't wait for that game. That is absolutely the game that I would be at. So we've got an SEC showdown there. Then week 4, we're going to head over to Southern California because we're going to watch USC versus Oregon. Remember, the purpose of this tour is to get to see as much college football as you possibly can. We're trying to get as much of an experience as we can, as many different environments as we can. And USC versus Oregon, while I think that that's probably going to be a game that Oregon wins, you never know. USC could surprise us. What's Lincoln Riley going to do this year? But at the same time, it's a Big Ten showdown that I want to be at. We get to be in SoCal for the game. I think that would be a fantastic week 4 stop. Then week 5, this one, another exciting one, ACC showdown. We're going to go to Clemson versus Miami. Now, in the past couple years, Clemson, Dabo, they've been struggling. A lot of it, I think, has to do, obviously, with the portal, how Clemson and how Dabo chooses to navigate and use the portal or not use the portal as much. And Miami, we've got them coming off a national championship appearance. So what is this game going to look like? Again, I think the ACC games that we have on here are ACC games that are going to shape up how the entire ACC kind of runs for this season. It's going to really affect, I think, what the ACC looks like, who's up top, and I think we're choosing games that are going to be very important to the ACC title race and who is there. So we're going to go to Clemson, Miami, week 5. And then week 6, we're going to go and see Texas, Oklahoma. Now, technically, this is a neutral site game for Texas, or technically it's a home game, but it's actually going to be on a neutral site. So we're going to allow it because Texas does play Ohio State at home, but this is a neutral site and it's the Red River Showdown. We got to be at that game. We just have to be at that game. It's a classic game. And if the goal of this tour is to not just see the best game every single week, but also to get as much of an experience of college football as we can, I think we have to be at that game. And honestly, that could just be one of the best games of the week as well, because Texas and Oklahoma, both teams that have playoff aspirations, and you love a good rivalry game there. That definitely still holds weight, even though it's not a Big Ten game. It's an SEC game now. Or not Big Ten, sorry. Not a Big 12 game anymore. It's an SEC game. But the weight of this game, the rivalry, it's so great. So we'll be there week 6. And then week 7, we're going to be at Indiana as they take on Ohio State. Now, apart from the Michigan game, which is a tough game, tough out every single year, I think we got Michigan's 2 biggest games, obviously, playing Texas and playing Indiana. And for Indiana, this game at home is massive. An unbelievably huge home game. You're coming off a national championship. Where's your season going to be at week 7, right? That storyline itself is going to be insane just to see where Indiana's at week 7. Because if you told people that Indiana was 6-0 going into week 7, they wouldn't be surprised. But if you told people that maybe Indiana lost a game or two, people would be surprised. But there's already, I think, this expectation that Indiana is going to take a step back. And so let's see if they take that step back against Ohio State. And if they can beat Ohio State, they've firmly reestablished themselves as one of, if not the best team in the country, and the team to beat on the year, depending on how Ohio State's season is going, of course, up to that point. But also, we get to follow Ohio State here and see how does that Texas game go, right? If Ohio State loses that Texas game, now they're coming into this Indiana game with at least one loss, probably one loss. And if they drop this game to Indiana, you're looking at a 2-loss Ohio State team possibly then, with Michigan still to come, or an opportunity. They beat Texas, they beat Indiana, and if they do both of those things, they're probably the number 1 team in the country for the rest of the season until they lose. So a huge turning point, basically right at the halfway point of the season. We've got to be at Indiana, Ohio State. Next, week 8, we're going to take, this is a bold take here, we're going to go to Minnesota, Iowa. Minnesota, Iowa. Week 8, there wasn't too many like huge headlining games for me. And so I was once again in the mindset of, well, what game could we go to this week that would still provide a new experience for another conference? We got a lot of SEC games, but we're pretty balanced between SEC, Big Ten. We've got some ACC. And so let's go to a game in the Big Ten. It's a rivalry game. It's Minnesota versus Iowa. And let's go check out that game, because I think that part of the greatest thing about college football and college sports specifically is that college football in America is the closest thing we have to international soccer, in the way that fans care for the games, in the way that they show up and the rivalries mean something and they matter. And so let's go to one. No, it's not the highlight game. No, it's not the Red River rivalry, but it's a backbone and a staple for Minnesota fans, for Iowa fans. It's a great game. So we're going to go to the Minnesota-Iowa game in Minnesota week 8. Then week 9, Florida-Georgia. We're going to Florida-Georgia week 9. This time, it's going to be at Mercedes-Benz Arena, Jacksonville under construction. I agree with the GOAT himself, Josh Pate. Absolutely a missed opportunity to do a home-and-home series over the next 2 years while the Jacksonville Stadium is being renovated. This game should be in Gainesville or it should be in Athens. The fact that it's being played in Mercedes-Benz as a neutral site is crazy, right? Jacksonville is at least close to the border of Georgia and Florida, but Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta, that's just basically a Georgia home game. So let's just play it in Athens because it's a college football game. So we're still going to be at Florida versus Georgia. Not going to have all the prestige it always has, but it's still going to be a great game. Still going to be a great rivalry. So we'll be there. Then week 10, another unbelievable game. We're going to be at Notre Dame, Miami. If I was planning my ideal tour, going to a game every single weekend, week 10, we would be at Notre Dame versus Miami. Notre Dame has an incredible opportunity this year, looking at their schedule, to go undefeated. And if they do that, they're obviously in the college football playoffs. This is one of, if not the single toughest game they have on their schedule. It's probably the toughest game they have on their schedule. How do they answer? How do they respond to another high-quality opponent? We saw last year this game was very pivotal. We saw last year that Notre Dame's loss early in the season was very, very pivotal to why they missed out on the college football playoffs. How do they respond this year? When you only have so many tests every single year, each test matters so much. And this is a game that's going to mean so much for Notre Dame because the committee is going to look at it at the end of the season, which, by the way, this is week 10, so there's only 3 weeks left after this game. This game is going to have so much weight as to where Notre Dame is placed in the college football playoff rankings because it's going to be their biggest test yet. We will absolutely be there at Notre Dame. That's going to be a great venue, another experience for us as well. Then week 11, we're going to go to Oregon versus Michigan. We're going to check out Oregon versus Michigan. We saw Oregon at USC week 4, but now we're going to see Oregon at home against Michigan. And again, just weren't a ton of games this week. It wasn't the game that I really felt like was the headliner, like we have to be at this game. And so we're going to go to the Oregon-Michigan game. We're going to get another experience on their stadium, get to see another home team play in Oregon. I expect Oregon to win this game, but this is also another game where if Michigan's having a crazy season, if Michigan pulls out a little bit of a feisty fight in them, and next thing you know, it's week 11, they're in the fight for the playoffs, in the hunt with the Big Ten teams. You get a big game at Oregon. You look for an upset. Bryce Underwood, how does he maybe show up this year? A lot of interesting stuff happening there. Will be a week 11, Oregon versus Michigan. Then week 12. This is an iconic venue, an iconic stadium. I thought we had to get one here. We're going to be at Tennessee versus LSU. We're going to see Lane Kiffin and the boys twice, this time towards the end of the season. And again, Lane Kiffin's goals obviously are to win, make the playoffs. We'll see if that happens year 1. But this is another one of those teams. They're playing a team in Tennessee who has been very competitive the past few years. They're playing a team in Tennessee that has playoff hopes, playoff aspirations. They might get a chance to play spoiler at that party. Second to last week of the season, we absolutely are going to be at Tennessee versus LSU. Get to be in Neyland Stadium and see how that game plays out. Then finally, week 13, the last game of the season, rivalry week. So many unbelievable and amazing games. We already saw Ohio State twice, so the game is out of question. We can't see Ohio State a third time. And so we're going to choose Alabama versus Auburn. We're going to choose Alabama versus Auburn. And this is a game that I love. The Iron Bowl every single year. I'm not even an Auburn fan. I'm not even an Alabama fan, but the Iron Bowl every single year is one of the greatest games of the entire season. Doesn't matter what Auburn's at. Doesn't matter where Alabama's at. Doesn't matter how these two teams are playing, but it just might matter this year depending on where Alabama's at. And this is a game that I think I stand with Brandon Walker on his college football playoff show, or college football show, where he's talking about this season being a huge season for Kalen DeBoer. Because if you come into year 3, Kalen DeBoer, and you're not making the playoffs in year 3, there's going to be some questions in Tuscaloosa about if you're back next year. And if you miss the playoffs year 3 and you lose to Auburn week 13 of that season, the questions are going to be loud. And I think that Auburn might have an opportunity this year to pull off that upset, to pull off that game. They do every single season, but I'm very excited to see how this revamped Auburn team plays. And so Alabama-Auburn is where I would be week 13 for rivalry week. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about this list. Remember, rules were we could only see a team twice, and at least one of those games, and if one of those games was at home, the other one had to be on the road. So we can only see a team twice. We can only see a team at home one time. And because of the fact that I can only see a team at home one time, that's why we're not going to Alabama-Georgia, which is another game that if I wasn't going to Alabama-Auburn, I would be going to Alabama-Georgia. But the rules apply. Only one home game. The Iron Bowl, to me, personally to me, if I'm trying to get the experience of college football, I'm trying to get the storylines, the rivalries, what makes college football so special. It has to be the Iron Bowl for me. And so while Alabama, Georgia is going to be a great game and I would love to be at that game, in my ideal list with the rules that I made up in my head and that we're playing by today, we can only be at one home game. So we're going to be at the Iron Bowl. But let me know down below in the comments what you think. If there's any games you would be at, you wouldn't be at, what your thoughts or expectations are for this season. Be sure to like the video, and we will see you guys in the next one.